Welcome to Backstage Community Forum. I'm Scott H. I am blessed to have my friend Matt Valle, the thunder behind State of Mind, the preeminent three-piece metal band of the Twin Cities. Matt, it has been a long time. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great. Man. It's great to reconnect.
Yeah. So, State of Mind. You came up from St. Paul. You started, right?
St. Paul, indeed. St. Paul,
Okay.
indeed. It was really
You're on the
interesting. Yeah, because just thinking about this, it's like, especially thinking about how we first met, how we got introduced to animosity. It was a big thing for us because we were all in high school and we were from St. Paul,
Yep.
uh, East Side.
I was from Richfield, East Side.
Yeah, there you go. But it's so funny because in our little corner, not only is St. Paul the eastern city, but we were basically from the east side of St. Paul, where there were two high schools, Tartan, which is where we went,
Mhm.
and Harding, and there's Johnson too. But between Tartan and Harding, there were so many bands, so many metal bands back then.
Really?
Yeah, we had our own big full scene. And then it was funny because actually I got a letter in the mail from Andy Kyriakis, introducing. He's like, "Hey man, I'm from this band Animosity. I got your demo tape. We played, around Minneapolis, whatever. Man, we should do a show together. Blah blah blah, that kind of thing." But and I'll talk about that in a bit because it was really cool.
Yeah. Or Andy reached out to you?
Yeah, Andy reached out to me, to Mike and me. So we had a demo that we put out, and of course, probably like you and every other band in the late '80s, I guess you would say, um, we were selling them at predominantly Northern Lights,
Yep.
and I think we sold a couple hundred at the one on White Bear Avenue in St. Paul on our side of town, but of course, Northern Lights downtown and on University and Electric Fetus, and down by the valley or whatever, down in the valley. Yeah, down in the valley, all the
You,
record shops, or folk, whatever, selling
you,
our demo tapes.
you and your brother, you started a three-piece band. Was it hard to be a three-piece you know, with the amount or with the speed and the technical stuff that you were doing in your band? Was it hard?
You know what? That is a super good question. Um, I think the reason we became a three piece was when we were real young. I mean, we were heavily influenced by Rush. Um,
Really?
oh
Okay.
yeah, totally. When I first heard Tom Sawyer, it was like, that's it. I want to play the drums. We
Gotcha.
were both huge Rush fans, and so that was kind of the default. And then Mike was also a really big Police fan, and then I became a
Okay.
big Venom fan. And so those three, they're all three pieces. So to us, it was just kind of the natural. We lived in the same house, obviously. We lived with our folks. And so it just seemed really easy. Hey, let's just get a bass player.
Yeah.
Mike could sing, so that was kind of a slam dunk.
Yeah.
And so we were just a three piece from the start. Now, there was one time where we briefly considered um, adding a second guitarist because the concern is, especially with really loud, fast thrash music, when you're playing live and Mike is ripping into a solo, there's no underlying guitar riff that fills up all the space. Um,
Mhm.
And so there was a guy from a band called Avatar. You remember them?
Yeah, Rob Solberg.
Yeah, I think Rob. I think we considered possibly bringing him on, but then we just decided, you know what? Three personalities, three schedules, everything's super easy. Sloan went to the same high school as us. And you know what? The fact of the matter is, Sloan was a ripping bass player.
Oh
So,
yeah, yeah. You guys
uh,
were all right on your game. I
yeah,
can't
so
imagine it being more than a three piece. Maybe was it John Woodbury maybe that you were thinking of?
yeah, I think that was it. John
Yeah,
Woodbury. Yeah,
yeah, yeah.
yeah.
He's been brought up a bunch of times in this jail.
But speaking of Odegaard,
Yeah.
we did get a chance to play with Jim, and that was in 2019, which was really cool. So all those years after opening up for Disturbed, so many times and everything, and hanging out with those guys in 2019, we did something of a reunion show in Minneapolis, and we invited Jim to come up on stage and help us do "Dethroned Emperor" by Celtic Frost. So
Yeah.
that
You
was an
mentioned that.
absolute awesome moment. It's funny. I was going to mention, like, right at the outset, that I was going to give a disclaimer that my memory about venues and bands and people is just getting really bad. So somebody's going to call me out on, yeah, that was not at the Mirage, Matt. I'm sorry, but
Oh yeah.
yeah, uh,
So so your brother's your guitar player,
yeah.
and that's how you met. Who's older?
Mike is. He's let's see, 14 months older than me. Yeah,
14 whole months.
14
Really?
whole months. That's right.
Wow. That's great. Yeah. And then where'd you pick up Sloan?
Sloan was a good buddy in high school. And he actually was not our first bass player, to be honest.
Really?
So way back when Mike and I started playing, and I should say part of the reason we started playing is because we're such huge fans of music and metal. We just wanted to play what we loved. And
Yeah.
so we just started playing tons and tons of covers. And grabbed somebody close, which was Mike's best friend, is a guy named Adam Vorderbruggen. Rest in
Mhm.
peace. Adam was a great dude, great dude. Um, and I think we played our first ever house party at Josh Kellerman's house. Josh Kellerman from Semtex and Die Hardcore and
Every metal show ever.
exactly, exactly. And Josh was really my best friend in high school.
Oh,
Um,
okay.
so
Is
we're
he from
very
your
close.
side of town?
Oh yeah, yep,
Okay.
yeah. So we've been friends since I want to say eighth grade, maybe.
I,
Yeah, sounds about right.
I mean, Jimmy said the first show that he ever played, he walked out on stage and there's Josh Kellerman standing there.
Yeah,
So I kind of figured first there it's in if the chicken egg thing, metal
yeah.
music and Josh Kellerman. I kind of thought of it was, which one was first? Was Josh Kellerman first or was it the metal scene first?
Well, I can answer that. Josh was probably from age 12 or 13 was just a huge Impaler fan.
Okay.
And so this is really funny. So Josh, everybody's got that friend who gets them into these bands that they would have never otherwise heard of, right?
Yep.
And so Josh was that person. He seemed to be aware of everything, and we were just kids,
Hmm.
eighth grade when we met, and he would stay over, and we would listen to the Root of All Evil radio show, and we'd call in and do all this stupid stuff.
Yep.
And we were going to put together a fanzine. It was called Savage Noise Fanzine, and it was going to have um, a companion comp tape of local bands, which I still remember.
Really?
Oh yeah, I still remember the bands that we had queued up on it. We had put together a draft version of it, and it was, let's see, it was Power Mad, Iron Fist from St.
Nice.
Paul. It was Assassin. I want to say Kubla Khan,
Yeah.
Deranged, which was pre Disturbed.
Yeah.
And then there was Death Squad from St. Paul, Vile. If you remember Vile.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And who else? Impaler, of course. And so we're like, can we really publish this? You know, maybe there's some copyright problems. And they're like, I don't know, but it never got done. But I mean, Josh was just a driving force, you know, for all of this stuff. He lived like one or two doors down from Jay Horseberger from Iron Fist, who was really a
Okay.
pioneer.
What instrument?
He did the vocals.
Okay. Bigger
Yeah,
guy, right?
yeah.
Yep.
That's
Because we
right.
played some shows with them back in the day. Yeah.
Yeah, so this was, you know, a long time ago, 85, 86, you know,
Hmm.
something
Early
like that.
metal. Early
Yeah,
metal.
85, I think. Yeah. Because it was before, I want to say it was before Master Puppet, so probably 85. So that's 13 years old. I mean, that's a long time ago.
Yeah, no kidding. Final
Uh,
Demise was in on that too, weren't they?
Final Demise. Yeah, all those bands. So there's lots of great connections to Tartan High School, which is Final Demise, Death Squad. You know, Bill Covert, Boy Bill, who played in
Vile. Yeah.
Metal, and what's that other one? He played in
Iron
Motley
Fist.
Trasho and
Oh yeah.
Destitute. That's it, Destitute. Um, and let's see, Warhead, and then Tony Olson, who played in Necromus, and just a whole slew of people that and bands. You know, we kind of had an embarrassment of riches in our little corner of St. Paul. So
Wow. How did you get started playing? You said that you heard Rush, but I'm guessing that you didn't just immediately sit down after hearing Limelight or Tom Sawyer and started playing exactly like Neil Peart. So how did you get
you
started?
know, you know what I did is I got remember those old Kemp ice cream buckets?
Absolutely. They still got them.
Yeah, so I went down into the basement and I had like a four-piece kit of Kemp's ice cream buckets. And then I had pie tins. I would hang one from the ceiling and then one from the floor, and I tie them together. And that was my hi hat. It'd be flying all over the place. And I'd hang a couple crash cymbals, a couple more pie tins. Um, and then my folks, you know, said, yeah, okay, maybe this is something that he might stick with. So they got me a drum kit, and Mike started playing guitar at the same time, and we started taking lessons. And we just wanted to get good enough, fast enough to play some Metallica covers, you know, play some Venom and Possessed, and you know, whatever we could, Celtic Frost, all that stuff, which is really kind of how we started.
Yeah, you guys. So you guys had a little deeper metal knowledge when you were starting because of Josh, I would imagine. But I mean,
Yeah,
you're naming bands like Celtic Frost and
yeah,
Venom and stuff. Not That's not usually what you hear when people are starting. That's usually
yeah,
what you hear after they've been in for a while. Normally,
yeah.
it's like oh, Metallica, Slayer, Anthrax, Megadeth, that kind of stuff. But so you started out deep in. You started out hip deep. That's pretty
Yeah.
crazy.
I'd say it was really a combination of three things. One was Josh. Two was the Root of All Evil show, listening
Mhm.
religiously on the weekends and just being exposed to all this new music. And then the third was the Northern Lights on White Bear Avenue, which my brother and I would take the bus to all the time.
Mhm.
You know, and just comb the stacks, and you see something that looks really metal, and it's like, hey, I'm gonna give this a try, man. So
Wow.
that's what it was.
Yeah, that's weird. That's weird that the river separated our scenes so much.
Yeah, but it
Um,
really was animosity that kind of brought us over because once Andy sent us that letter, I think he probably gave his phone number, gave him a call and talked to him. He invited us to a couple things. He's like, hey, we should do this gig at Tarantula Gardens. And we're like, Tarantula Gardens, what's that? And so,
did you guys play on that with us?
no, but we came out there
Okay.
to meet you, and um, we attended a party just briefly. And I think I was 16 and Mike was 17. And we're like, this doesn't entirely look like it's above board. And I think it was like the next week it was shut down.
Yeah,
Um,
because the dude got stabbed there. That's what happened. There was a fight, and the guy got stabbed.
but then there was did did you guys play frat party at the University of Minnesota?
Yes, we did.
Yeah,
It wasn't
I
frat
went
party.
to
It was
that.
at the co-op,
Okay,
but it was
okay.
on Frat Row, right on University Avenue.
Dude, that was freaking wild.
That was crazy.
That was wild. You know what's so funny too was back then, um, it felt like Minneapolis was so far away. Uh,
Yeah.
and I just like thinking back, why did I think that was the case? I'll tell you why it was the case. Because, hey, it's before Google Maps, right? So when we would go to Minneapolis, we'd go to First Avenue or whatever, we would jump on Marshall Avenue, drive it all the way down till it turns into Lake Street, take Lake Street all the way down to Hennepin and drive downtown. It took us like an hour to get to
Oh my
Minneapolis. So
God.
it's like, oh my God, Minneapolis is so far. It's like 15 minutes on the highway.
You know,
So
94 is right there, man. Wow, that's funny.
too
So that's
funny.
the way you guys used to. So were you driving yourself? Were you at the? Did you start going to metal shows when you guys were driving yourself, or were you parent driven or older brother?
Yeah, I started going when I was, well, I guess, yeah. We had our aunt took us to. We didn't have our licenses when Metallica toured for Master of Puppets, so our aunt took us to that one, which was really cool.
You went to the First Avenue show of Metallica.
It was at the Orpheum
Okay. So that would have been a year later because they
with
first
Karma the
played.
Saint.
Yeah. So you saw him with Cliff.
So I'm with Cliff, which was awesome.
Did you go up in the rafters and smoke a bowl with him, or?
No, I didn't.
Remember Saint?
Smoked a bowl with Cliff Burton up in the last rows of the place, and and they weren't rock stars. They weren't well known then.
No. They were opening.
Yeah, and they were wearing the clothes that they slept in the night before.
Yeah.
They looked like the guy that drove the truck and set up the PA. And I had seen them at First Avenue a year prior and just a few nights earlier at the Orpheum. And so I recognized him. I ran into him and see people from Iowa and got into Cliff Burton and said, "Hey, man, you guys kick ass. You're one of my favorite bands." "Oh, cool." He goes, "You got any weed?" "Yeah, we do." So we went up in the nosebleed area in the corner of the stage, and he was appreciative that we smoked him up. And
My aunt was smoking her own bowl, but, but not us. And then it was really my folks would drive us and they would drop us off. Like Josh and I would go see. One really memorable show for us was December 27th, 1986, which was Impaler and Vile and Power Mad and
Oh my God.
blanking on it. It was, for some reason, it was like one of those times where it was like a coming of age for us. We're both 14 years old, and it was such an amazing show. And to see a band like Power Man was so good.
Oh yeah. Well, you haven't
And
named anybody that wasn't great.
yeah, I know.
Where,
We're huge fans of all of those bands, and
where
so
was that?
it was at First Avenue main room.
Okay. All right.
And so we still celebrate the 27th of December together. So as soon as I wake up on December 27th, I have a message from Josh. Happy 27th, motherfucker.
Nice.
So
Your DNA changed that day.
it totally did. It was awesome. We were all in. We were all in back then for sure.
That's cool. That's really cool. So yeah. So what kind of clubs did you have in St. Paul that you would go to?
Well, funny enough, I think our first two shows were at the Entry. We did a new band night, and in St. Cloud at the Press Club and Parlor.
Oh, nice.
Both very memorable shows, for different reasons, but two really interesting shows. So I don't remember which one came first, to be dead honest, but I think it was the Entry. So we got booked on a new band night. And so my parents, came with because we were underage.
Yeah.
And it was, there was like nobody there. But Bill Batson was doing the sound, Bill Batson from the Mighty Mofos.
Mighty Mofos, yep.
And he ended up, doing our sound many, many times in the Entry. It was just such a cool dude. And even at the time, so was all in on metal, but also punk rock, and especially the Minnesota version of Replacements and Husker Du and early Soul Asylum. Huge fan already of those bands in high school.
Oh, okay.
And so I was really enamored with Bill Batson because he was regaling me with stories on the road with Husker Du, and I was just kind of awestruck, right?
Yeah.
So we're playing, and back then everyone's got their big giant double bass drum kits, and so
Yeah.
I had mine. Trying to look like Dave Lombardo or Lars Ulrich or whatever.
Yeah.
And so I'm playing, and I could feel, that little cutout, behind the drum set on stage there,
Yes. Yes, I
that
do.
stairway that led to the green room downstairs, green room, whatever you want to call that. So I felt somebody, standing behind me the whole time while we were playing our set, right? It just felt like it. And then we're done, and I go around, and I'm talking to my parents who are standing on the floor there in the middle. And this guy comes around from behind the drum kit, that stairway. And I can instantly tell it's Grant Hart from Husker Du, right?
Oh, wow.
Grant Hart from Husker Du, and he literally has that stereotypical bottle of booze in a brown paper sack, right?
In the entry, right?
In the entry, yeah. And so he's walking, and he's got really glassy eyes, just smelling like booze. And I think I was 16. And so my folks are there, and he comes over. First thing he does is he offers me a pull off his bottle. Right? And I say no. And then he offers it to my mom.
Oh, God.
He says, no, thanks. No, thanks. I'm good. And I knew it was him. And so I'm just like totally starstruck. And I'm like, hey, Mom, that's Grant from Husker Du.
Yeah.
Right. And so he looks over at my mom, and, he's famous for like this super sarcastic wit. And it was on display there because he goes to my mom. He says, excuse me, ma'am, is this drummer your son? And she says, why, yes, he is. And he says, well, I have to tell you, your son is the best left-handed double bass drummer I've ever seen.
Wow.
And of course, he was taking the piss because he was making the point that he's never seen a left-handed double bass drummer. But, of course, it flew over my mom's head. And so she was just like, oh, my gosh.
That's awesome.
I knew he was I knew he was taking the piss, but it was hilarious. And so it was really cool.
Oh, that's crazy. So he was standing behind you the whole time you were playing?
Yeah, he just came in through that side door.
Okay.
Was just hanging out.
Yeah. Oh,
hanging
my
out
God.
drinking.
Yeah, new band night. They used to have a lot of people that would show up at that new band night. That was usually pretty fun, but it was on Tuesday. So anybody that had to work really didn't go to new band night that
That's
much.
right. That's right. Now the story about the press club and parlor was that one was more I guess more important to what we ultimately did. And it was the first show that we ever played that was promoted by Decker, by Sean Decker, rest in peace.
Your second show was promoted by Decker?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, it was. It was.
Cool.
Now, of course, this is my memory, and this one I am certain of because I remember some of the circumstances of the show, which were really funny. Decker was a riot. So what happened was we're playing at the press club and parlor. We're all excited. Hey, we're doing this out of town gig, and out of town.
Yeah.
So we get there, and we don't know anything about playing a gig like this. So Decker says, "Hey, I've got no money for you, but we got food and beer for the bands, right?" so we got a case of so we got a case of beer. My brother and I, we didn't drink or anything back then, but Sloan certainly did. And so did our roadie, Dave Bastel, who's still a good friend to this day.
Okay.
So they pounded the whole case in like no time. And we went around to check out the food situation, right? And there's just this plate that's just filled with a stack of roast beef. There's no sandwiches, or there's no bread, there's no utensils. It's just pick up
Like
a
deli
handful of
cut?
roast beef and stuff it in your mouth.
Just like deli cut stuff. Like you went and grabbed a couple of bags of budding ham or budding
It
ham.
was like, but
I can see it. I can see it in my head.
but the best thing about Decker at that show was, here's like three bands that nobody knows, right? So he started out with, it was like a $10 cover, which seemed like impossibly high to me at the time. It's like, oh man, I think I saw Voivod last week for $10.
Exactly.
But he's out there on the sidewalk, and he's like intercepting people just walking down the sidewalk indiscriminately. Didn't matter what they looked like. He's like, $10, $10, $10, and it turns into $9. And it kept coming down. $2, $2 come in. Like grabbing people off the street. Oh God, it was a riot. Now something really funny happened on stage. We were playing, and Mike is just banging his head, just going crazy, and he gets this huge clump of his hair caught in his strings like this. And we had to actually,
in his own guitar.
So he's like this. We had to stop the song, and I think it was his girlfriend gets up on stage and takes like 5 minutes to surgically remove his hair from his. We played our last couple songs.
Oh, you guys had such long hair. Everybody jealous of your hair.
We had the look.
You did.
But that show was really important for us because, and this is just dumb luck, that show was attended by Brent Huberty, who was part of Channel 83 Records. Practically speaking, he was essentially a scout for Owen. Owen didn't necessarily have a great sense for, what music was good and what's going to sell. And so he relied on Brent a lot for that. And so Brent came up to us afterward. He's like, hey man, I really liked your set. I mean, this is really cool stuff. I'm from Channel 83 Records, and we'd like to have you over to our office next week and maybe talk about a record deal. And we're like, what?
So this is like either your first or your second show?
Yeah, I mean, I'm like 17 years old.
That's how it goes.
17 years old, yeah.
Yeah, you usually get on a Decker show right away, and then you get your record deal that same day.
It was crazy. So yeah, I mean, it was obviously we must have played well, but yeah, it was a funny show.
Wow, so that's before you'd maybe done the entry once for new band night at that point in time. So and how old are you? You're 16 at this time?
I was probably 17-ish, because I know we signed the contract in 1989.
Okay.
And recorded the album, I think, in the spring of 90. And it came out in 90. The album came out in 90. That's all I know.
Okay. Wow. I didn't realize, because I thought that, but had you been doing like a bunch of shows before those two? Had you been playing like parties and
tons of parties and
the Spy Club with Avatar and
yeah, dude, we did that. You're right, man.
Driving school turned musical place.
I'm probably totally messing up how many shows we played before that Decker one, but we played the Spy Club. That was real early on. We played our high school a lot. Because there were so many bands, our high school would have essentially metal shows in the cafeteria.
Really?
I remember Tony Olson, Necromus, got up there, which is Greg Chilton too, right?
Wow.
Got up there and he played Angel of Death, and he friggin' nailed it. And I was just in awe.
And this was during school.
It was they were during the evenings.
Okay.
But yeah, to be a whole slate of metal bands, we play like the school dances. So I think we played our school at least 3 times. We played at Park of Cottage Grove after Josh left Tartan and he went to Park of Cottage Grove and he booked us. He booked us at their high school with some other metal bands that he knew. And we played, yeah, a lot of house parties, backyard parties, and a number of Battle of the Bands, which were pretty big around that
Yeah, I
area.
remember there was a lot of those. Did you meet anybody through those shows that was cool though, or was it all pretty much just you and
No, I did. One person I remember meeting at what's that town, like close to Stillwater, like out in the middle of nowhere. There's this huge banquet hall or whatever that had a Battle of the Bands, and that was won by Lobotomy, which was Brad Miller, and I think Greg Chilton again was singing for them back then.
Oh,
Uh,
okay.
and
That's a cool name. I like that.
yeah, so I mean, Brad Miller and I, friends to this day.
Wow,
Uh,
okay.
so that's pretty cool. But there were a lot of cool bands like you know, Chris Twig, who played with Final Demise,
Okay.
was there, and later he played with Pharrell Williams. I don't know if you knew that.
No.
I was watching. He went to high school with me. He's a year younger than me. He went to Tartan. And back then, he was just learning bass. Playing in Final Demise and whatnot. Just learning bass, and he ended up going to music tech.
Oh, okay. Yep. Downtown
And
Minneapolis. Yep.
yeah, and one day just before I got married, this must have been 2002. Yeah, that sounds about right. I was sitting in the basement watching Saturday Night Live. My wife was upstairs, and I'm watching and it was Pharrell Williams. And I'm looking, I'm like, what? That's Chris Twig on the bass. So I ran upstairs. I'm telling my wife, I'm like, get down here. It's Chris Twig on the bass. So I just went bonkers. And so the next day I'm calling him. I'm like, dude.
No
So
kidding.
yeah, crazy. He's played and I stay in touch with him a lot too. And he's played with like Justin Timberlake and all these crazy.
Really?
Oh
And he's
yeah,
the
yeah.
Tartan guy, or was he the guy that you met through the Battle of the Bands?
Tartan guy.
Oh, wow.
I made the association because I remembered his band was
I
one of
gotcha.
them.
Yeah, so your buddies on Saturday Night Live. Was he any skits?
No, no, but I was just. This is so crazy when you're just, I'm just kind of spacing out, and then you see somebody in this forum that's like, oh my god, it was just so
That's that
crazy.
would be kind of main stage there.
Yeah, kind of. Our best and our worst moments were both at First Avenue. So the best.
Okay.
You mentioned first time walking out on the main stage. That definitely was it for us. Or for me, it was like seeing the curtain go up. It was we got the call to open for DRI and the Thrash Zone tour.
So just to recap, so you started out at Tartan High School. You got together with your brother playing, and I do got a question about that real quick. Where did you guys take lessons, or did you?
We did take lessons. We took lessons at I can't remember what it was called anymore, but it was on Robert Street in West St. Paul. And my very first teacher for a short while was a guy named Kerry who played for the Regime.
Oh, really?
And I was too young to know who they were at that time.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
think I was 13, 12 or 13. And he had long blonde hair, so sort of like impossibly cool.
Mhm.
But he left, and so there's this guy named Diesel Tucker was his name, and so shout out to Diesel. Buddy was still in touch. He plays in Hawaii now. Just a great dude. He was the one. He said, "Okay, you can learn one of two ways. I know you're left-handed." He's like, "I can teach you to play on a right-handed kit. That way, you'll never not be able to sit down and play." Or I can switch it all around and teach you to play left-handed. And I said, that's what we're going to do. So that's why I play in a left-handed kit, is because Diesel said, oh,
It
good.
was He was the guy that made you lefty.
Yeah.
You were, I guessing you were lefty when you walked into the situation, but he decided.
Yeah, yeah. I couldn't do anything with my right hand. So like the whole thought of trying to, nah, forget it.
And then what about Mike? Where did Mike learn how to
Yeah,
play?
it was the same. And then I think he took lessons longer than I did. He was taking lessons from somebody at Torps, I want to say,
Oh,
and
okay. Yep.
on High Street. So yeah, and it was, I mean, it's just a means to an end. Let's get good enough fast enough so we can start a band. That's it. Oh, it wasn't, hey, I wasn't thinking about, how great I could do my rudiments. I just wanted to play thrash metal, man.
Yeah.
That's it.
You've been seeing bands on stage long enough now.
Yeah.
Were you nervous on stage?
Uh, Not really. I think only just, sort of the good kind of nerves. I mean, it's a different when you're a drummer, right? It's like, I didn't write these songs.
Yeah.
I'm in the back, so, it's not such a big deal when you're the drummer, I don't think. I think our album was about to come out on Channel 83. I know that show, that DRI show was in 1990. I'm sure we had already played some entry shows by then. But there was a woman who was doing promoting for First Avenue named Jules.
Yeah, Jules. Yep.
I guess she did a lot of the metal shows.
Mhm.
But she was really good to us. She would put us on really good bills for a while. And I think she was the one that recommended us for the DRI show, and they were touring with Nasty Savage. I was also a big Nasty Savage fan at the time.
Oh, nice.
And so that was just like, and I just remember, going around high school because we would put flyers up all over school. And I'm like, wow, this is like the coolest thing I could possibly do. It's like my band's name is on this DRI flyer. Oh my God.
Nice. Do you have a copy of that flyer?
I do, because I made it and it's terrible.
Awesome. You have to give me that one. We're gonna have to put it up.
All right. This is awful.
It's just a picture of you and DRI written kind of over in the side.
Basically, yeah.
Matt with State of Mind and DRI.
So, but yeah, I'll never forget. So it was back in the day when they would do a matinee show, and then for an all ages matinee show, and then a 21 plus show after that. And so we played the matinee, and it was sold out. I'll never forget that. Sold out at First Avenue. And man, when the curtain went up just like that and looked, it's just sold out. And it was awesome. And the crowd response was really good. And
thanks a lot. We only got one more song. Good on to Nasty Savage. This is called Blacklisted.
And after the show, it was like, we knew we were getting $25, for
Yeah.
the slot.
You guys got paid $25.
No, because we went up to Steve McClellan's office, and I'd heard all the horror stories about how horrible it is to interact with this guy, how much of a dick he was.
Yeah.
And so we go up there, and he's like, sit down. We sat down. He's like, you guys did great tonight. And he gave us $75. And we're like, whoa. And I still I see these retrospectives on First Avenue and Steve McClellan, and I just think, wow.
Yeah.
But we did bring a lot of people in. So
to be fair, he was more like the stern
yeah,
caretaker or babysitter. He wasn't a dink, He was stern though. The one I think actually I'm remembering we did a show with you guys, and then I think Martial Law was the other band that was on it at the entry, and I think it was just the three of us, and it was kind of the untested.
Yeah.
So Chad and I went to go talk to Steve, and he didn't even stop anything that he was doing while we were talking to him. He made we're like in his office for like maybe 8 seconds, and he just stands up and walks out. And so we're like, do we just follow him or what? So we follow him around. He goes over to the vending machine and gets a candy bar, and he's chewing on the candy bar, walking back to his office, and we're trailing behind him. He's like, what makes you guys think you're going to be able to pull in enough people? You know, you get all these bands saying, oh, I'm going to bring in all these people, and then you don't bring in the people, and it kind of sucks for us. So you got to remember that, you know, it's like, wow. So it's true, but he gave you guys 75. Wait, if you really think about this, you guys got paid to play.
We did. We did.
DRI.
Yeah. We're professionals, man.
With DRI.
With DRI, we got paid to play with DRI. Yeah, absolutely.
That's insanity.
And we're still so young in kind of our trajectory. We're like, it's only up from here, but the truth is it was only down from there.
Oh no.
Everything after that sucked. Actually, our nail in the coffin was at First Avenue. And so that's the flip side story. I want to tell you this one, if that's all right.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know, we did the record with Channel 83. Biggest compliment Owen gave me was that he said he broke even on our record, which I was very happy about. So he didn't lose money. There were plenty of artists he lost money on.
Yeah. Can we delve a little deeper into the Channel 83 real quick?
Yeah, sure.
Where did you record that album?
This is a story.
Yeah, that's what we're here for.
They had a relationship with Leo Whitebird at POD Studios.
I'm not familiar. What city was that in?
He did at the time. It was Minneapolis. It was off of Lake Street.
Okay.
And so we recorded it at Leo's studio. And there was this guy at the time. He went by Max Rand. He was somehow involved in this whole thing.
I remember that name.
You remember this dude? He wore like thick frame glasses and had long hair. And anyway, I don't remember what his real name was, but we're high school kids, right? And my brother was like, just turned 18 or something. And so this guy was trying to recruit my brother to do a vampire porno the whole time we're there. So that was funny enough, but
$25.
Yeah. Now Leo Whitebird, rest in peace. We didn't click with the dude, to be honest. We recorded, it was a 16 track. We recorded it all live, so we all played at the same time. But when it came time to come out with the record, it's just like, this sounds like crap. It just doesn't, it sounded really muddy. And we were super excited because, we had done the demo, and we were excited for something that sounded professional, and it didn't. So we went to, we told Owen, we're like, we're not going to release this. We're going to pay to have it mastered ourselves. And so we brought it to Brian Bart.
Yep.
And Brian, I remember he was at the board, and he's trying to line up all of the tracks. And he's like, okay, there's this one I'm leaving to last because there's just so much noise in it. I don't know what it is. And so that turned out to be one of the bass drums. Which he said was like 51% noise, 49% bass drum, or something like that.
Oh my God. Okay.
So he did the best. He did the best that he could with what he had. So it sounded better than the first mix, but there's only so much you could do because some of the problem really was with some of the recording.
Yeah, that's a bummer. But Brian is so amazing. Yeah,
he is. He's
incredible. We did Life and Times with him. Disturbed did Don't Expect Any Miracles with them. And now, where did you do your demo? Which one was called? Was it Mass Persecution?
Mass Persecution was
that your album or was that your demo?
That was the album with Channel 83.
Okay.
The demo I think we did was self-titled.
Okay.
Uh,
Did that have Blacklisted on it?
yep.
Okay. Yep. That's the one I remember.
Yeah. But the Blacklisted was also on the most of what was on the original demo was on the album with Channel 83.
Oh, okay. All right. And where did you record that? I'm sorry.
Uh,
The demo.
the demo was it was called B-Side Studios. It was somewhere in St. Paul. This is an 8-track.
Oh, okay. All right. Was it analog or was it?
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's cool. I liked analog recording.
Yeah. Yeah.
As a singer, you get a lot of little extra noise that makes you sound better.
Yeah. And Mass Persecution was analog as well. It wasn't until we recorded a demo after that. So we did the record with Channel 83, and then we self-produced a demo after that, which we just had. We did it all with Brian Bart.
Oh yeah. So did you walk away from Channel 83 then after the?
No, Channel 83 wasn't going to do another record. I mean, we broke even, but
Yeah.
it's like, yeah, I just can't do another one.
Yeah.
Which is fine because our scene was dwindling a bit as Pantera was coming in, changing the sound. Death metal was becoming a thing. What we were doing was not. It didn't have the momentum behind it as when we started. And so our shows, our crowd started getting smaller. So our demo after that, we're self-deprecating guys. So we called it Main Room Wannabes.
Oh God.
Because our days of playing the main room were over.
Oh.
We headlined one of the metal fests. We did the DRI thing. We opened for Disturbed once. I think we played on the main room only 3 times.
Okay. Yeah, we about the same. Yeah.
A couple few dozen in the entry, but by that time, that was 1993 that came out, was Main Room Wannabes.
Okay.
But and this gets back all the way back to that story at First Avenue.
Yeah.
So I get a call from First Avenue, like the beginning of the week, like on a Monday. And like, hey, State of Mind, you guys want to open up for what's his name?
Prince?
No, the guy who does the horror movies.
Huh?
The guy who
Zombie.
Yeah. Do you want to open up for White Zombie?
Okay.
Call up, you want to open up for White Zombie? And I'm like, oh my God. So I'm calling Mike, I'm calling Sloan, I'm like, hey, State of Mind back in business. We're playing with White Zombie, man. So we're just stoked, right? Just absolutely thrilled. So we're gonna go all out. I think we got like a U-Haul to schlep all of our friggin' and so we pull up at the loading door, and Conrad comes out and he's like, State of Mind, what are you guys doing here? We're like, we're opening up for White Zombie, yo. He's like, no, you're not. You're opening up for Mondo Trasho in the entry.
Wow.
Still cool. Switch, dude.
Still cool.
Still cool, but it's like total bait and switch, right? And Mondo Trash was sort of at their peak of just crazy stage antics where they're just dumping on everybody, right? So that's probably having a hard time finding an opening band. So it was Love Kit, if you remember that band. It's the only time I ever came across them. It was Love Kit, State of Mind, and Mondo Trasho. And so we get around like, oh my God. And just with the schedule and everything, we actually played at the same time as White Zombie. So nobody there when we're playing. But then Terry Ingram or whatever, gets up on the stage. And this was so funny. I'm standing next to Sloan, and he says, yeah, we'd like to thank Love, Shit, and State of Boredom for warming up the crowd tonight. Right. And I just started laughing. Sloan starts laughing.
Oh yeah.
The guys from Love Kit were pissed. And so
Really?
one of them jumped up on stage and confronted Terry. It was kind of in his face, right? But after he said that, it's like I leaned over to Sloan and said, I think State of Mind's done, right? He's like, yeah, we're done. We're done. And then the worst part, like insult to injury. So we decided right then, it's like, we're done. And of course, we still had our demo at all of the record shops in town.
Yeah.
And so I got to do that, tail between, they're all on consignment.
Yeah.
Tail between the legs, give me back the stock that you haven't sold or whatever. And so I go into the electric fetus and I come up to the counter and I'm like, yeah, I'm Matt from State of Mind. I'm like, those are our demos there. We just had like a little box of 5. They still had all 5, right?
Yeah.
And I said, yeah, we broke up. So, I'll take those back. And so he sets them down in front of me. And I said, is there anything I need to sign or whatever? He says, well, let's see. You brought 5 demo tapes. You're bringing 5 back. What's to sign?
God.
Yeah, you're right, man. Just punch me right there in the neck and I'll walk out the door. Thanks.
The fetus was a friend to the hardcore scene, but not to the metal scene. Northern Lights was the metal scene, but the fetus was always definitely more your replacements and Husker Du and Toyland, Soul Asylum. Yeah, that's funny. Oh God.
So yeah.
So, and then you guys were that was it? You're just done?
That was it. We packed up and called it a day until, so that must have been 94. So my brother and I were both at the University of Minnesota at the time studying. And so, I continued to play in other bands and stuff, but fast forward to 2019, and I get a call or somebody reached out to me on Facebook. This guy named Matt Radzinski, who's got a record label called Dive Bomb Records. And he reaches out and says, hey, my name's Matt Radzinski. I really like the album you put out in 1990. I've got a record label and I'm wondering if you'd be interested in re-releasing your record on my label.
Wow.
And I'm like, is this some kind of joke? You kidding me, man? It's like it's 29 years ahead, I guess it was 28 years. So it's 2018 that he reached out.
Yeah.
And yeah, he was serious. And I'm like, wow. He's like, okay, here's what I need. I need the original DAT from all your stuff, right?
The mixed down or the unmixed?
Unmixed if possible. So they do just a little bit of tweak. And so I had to call Owen because I couldn't find it. And so it's a good thing we had Brian Bart redo it because he mastered it digitally.
Oh, okay. I gotcha.
Yeah. So I tracked Owen down, and he's living up in Wisconsin, northern Wisconsin in the middle of nowhere. And, he's not a young man anymore. So I'm like, Owen, hey, would you be cool if we did this? And he's like, yeah, absolutely. As long as you send me a copy. And I'm like, cool. Do you have the DAT anywhere? He's like, oh, I don't know. It could possibly be in my garage or something. And he's like, you know what? I have somebody coming to clean out my garage this weekend. I'll have them look out for it. So I'm thinking this is like never going to happen, right? Sure enough, he finds it. He sends it to me. So I'm like, oh my God. And so I had the DAT for our for the Main Room Wannabes EP that we did later. And so, so we put it together and here it is. It's released on CD. It's great because it's got like this full color 20-page booklet on the inside. It was remastered and, they did some really cool sizzle reels when it came out. And now there's only a few copies left, but it's Dive Bomb Records.
Is that where you go to get it then?
Yeah, it's divebombrecords.com if anyone is interested, but it sounds really good. Mass Persecution was only released on cassette for Channel 83.
Oh,
So
you guys didn't do the LP for that. It was
no,
just okay, because I was trying to think of where I would find, because I remember, so there was a handful of bands on Channel 83. There was Morticia, and they did several, I think, with them.
yep,
Disturbed, the first incarnation of Disturbed, did
yep,
Disturbing the Peace. Soylent Green had one, and you
yep.
guys. Am I missing anybody?
Sonic Green did a couple. Death Rider did a CD on Channel 83.
The Gate. Yeah.
Um, there were a bunch of other bands, some that weren't metal. Um, Impaler did a record with Channel 83 as well.
Did they really?
Yeah, I think they did one. Was it Wake Up Screaming?
I'm not sure. They.
I think so. One last thing about that
Yeah.
Dive Bomb Records thing. Of course, whenever something like that happens, it leads to a reunion show, or at least calls for a reunion show, right?
Yeah.
And so, Josh Kellerman and I are still, very, very close friends. And he's like, hey, you know what? We're doing this Toys for Tots. Bill Hansen is doing this thing at Club Underground in Minneapolis in December. He's like, I bet we could get you on there. And I'm
Okay.
like,
Yep.
and then we're like, oh, okay, so there's actually a venue and a date. But I called up Mike and Sloan and I'm like, what do you think about this? Oh my God. I mean, we hadn't played that stuff in so long. Sloan basically stopped playing. Mike stopped playing for a long time, and so did I. I mean, just playing the instruments was a challenge. But we had a month to think about it. And we decided, yeah, we're going to do it. I think we can. Let's pick the three easy songs that, we know we can play, one of which was Blacklisted.
Yeah.
And then we picked a cover. So it's like 4-song set. We played 3 of our songs, and then we did Throne Emperor by Celtic Frost, and we asked Jimmy Odegaard to come up and sing it for us. And he was just absolutely awesome. So that was just a real thrill and kind of an awesome capstone to whatever you call it that we did for a few years with State of Mind.
Yeah.
The bill was so good too because Semtex was playing.
That's Josh Kellerman's band.
Josh Kellerman and the Curran brothers and Damien, and the Curran brothers went to Tartan as well. Right?
Oh, did they really?
Oh yeah, Mike
Okay.
and Dennis. So there was that, and there was Krog, which Brian Owens, rest in peace, great dude, and Rob Carlson and Wes Mantooth, and just really cool people.
Yeah.
And Brian actually got up and he said a few words about State of Mind. He's a fan way back in the day before he started playing in bands, which was cool. And it's actually where I met Henry Jordan from Pursuit. I'm rocking a merch here today.
Yeah.
Henry is just awesome. Like, we just totally hit it off right from the start because they were fresh from. It was before Pursuit. It was more of a hardcore punk thing they were doing called Pursuit of Cash. And they were fresh from opening up for DRI, actually. So we were chatting about that.
To go full circle.
Yeah, we stayed friends, and he mixed and mastered some stuff I did with a punk band here in Dallas called Chumleys. And then with Pursuit, he was touring Texas with a band from the Twin Cities called Necrotisk. And so they played here in Dallas, and he's like, hey man, can we crash on your floor? Well, absolutely, of course. So a bunch of stinky, sweaty, long haired, big bearded metal dudes sleeping on my floor. But it's just classic Minnesotans in that, they get up the next day, clean up after themselves, and fold up the blankets and towels, and it's just spotless. So great house guests.
Nice. So are you playing right now? Is that the band that you're playing with, or explain that a little bit further?
Yeah, I was in a punk band called the Chumleys.
Yeah, I remember seeing that name.
Yeah, just some dudes that I met, during the pandemic. It's like, hey, let's do this.
I saw it on your page. That's where I saw it. Okay.
Yeah. One guy from Texas, one guy from Michigan, and we started playing. And, it was kind of like we're self-deprecating, but good enough and kind of funny and easy to get along with. And DFW, Dallas Fort Worth, is a huge market. So there's no shortage in getting gigs. So we're playing twice a month. Piece of cake. We played at probably 20 different venues over 2 years here in Dallas, which was cool. Played a lot of great shows. And actually we played one night in Minneapolis, where back in the day, so Billy Morissette from Dillinger 4, also from St. Paul, and Josh Kellerman were in this band called Dink long ago, not the one that later became popular, but they were destructive and funny and catchy and obnoxious and just all around awesome. And so they did a reunion show, which included Semtex once again. And they invited the Chumleys to come up and play it. So it was freaking awesome. We got on a plane, and it's a big town gig for us. That was super fun. And then we just had a disagreement about how to record our next set of songs, and it just led to us breaking up and whatever. We're still friends, but I play in a band now called Pretty. Here it is. Pretty. Yeah.
Oh, okay. All right.
Which is kind of not too dissimilar from, like, genre-wise, kind of that loud, hard, fast rock and roll that Chad Johnson is playing in Fret Rattles.
Oh, okay.
It's kind of that sort of vibe.
Chad and Kurt Johnson.
Chad and Kurt, that's right.
Yeah.
I have 2 of their records on vinyl, and they are fantastic.
Oh yeah, I've seen them a couple of times, and I really like it.
Yeah,
the fret rattle. So that's the kind of style that you're playing in right now in the band called what? Pretty, you said?
Yeah. So it's a guy from Brooklyn who then toured with some grunge band in Seattle for a few years, and then made his way down to Texas. His name's Justin. So Justin and I just got a new bass player a couple of months ago, but it's a lot of fun. I mean, it's really catchy and easy to play, and no shortage of venues. So,
so did you start playing again before the State of Mind reunion, or after, or did you play throughout the whole gap, or bring us up to speed here? So you did the State of Mind thing from what, like, I suppose you started, State of Mind was your first band, right?
Yeah. So I'll say 97 to
87.
87 to 94, I think.
Okay. But
yeah.
But so what did you do 94 to?
Yeah, here's the intervening years.
Man.
Intervening years. Sloan stayed in the Twin Cities.
Yep.
Still lives there. Still same old Sloan. Funniest guy I ever met in my life. Probably the most charismatic too.
Yeah.
We don't talk that much anymore, but deep love, love him like a brother. And so Sloan works in roofing. Mike, he graduated from the University of Minnesota, moved to Chicago for grad school, eventually to Phoenix, Arizona, which is where he lives now. And he is a philosophy professor at Scottsdale Community College. And on the weekends, he's a motorcycle mechanic. So, Mike does.
That's awesome.
So he's been doing that. As for me, and both of them really stopped playing, except Mike picked it up again, probably around the pandemic. And he's been playing bass and guitar with a bunch of guys in town in Phoenix.
Okay.
He's kind of rediscovered hair metal. He's got some passion for that right now.
Oh, that's cool. Yeah.
Even though he has no hair, but
that's why he likes hair metal.
That's right. It's more, ambition at this point. And as for me, so I graduated from Minnesota. I stayed in town. I worked at uh, West Publishing, now Thompson Writers, for like 7 years. Went to grad school at Minnesota. Met my wife, got married. That's 20 years ago now. I've got 3 kids. Mike and Sloan do not have kids.
Okay.
But I started moving around a lot for work. So I moved to Chicago, then Cincinnati, back to Chicago, back to Cincinnati, New York, and now Dallas, where I've been for 7 years. But before I started moving around, I did continue to play. Josh and I formed a punk band that I guess was the next iteration of Dink in a way. It was called Captain Trash.
Yeah, it was called what?
Captain Trash. We're super destructive. We played a few shows with like the Quincy Punks. Actually, we destroyed the venue before the Quincy's could play. Everybody got kicked out. Yeah, it was a mess. Where was it? So yeah, Captain Trash. It was very destructive, but it was a lot of fun, really catchy songs. And then I took a job. My profession, I'm a market researcher by trade and training. And so I took my first, I guess, like suit and tie job, if you will, back then.
Mm-hmm.
And I worked with this guy who was a child psychologist, right? But his name was Doug, and he had this jazz duo. It was called Tom and Doug, these two guys. And it was like really tongue in cheek, kind of stupidly funny jazz songs.
Gotcha.
Really nerdy, all that kind of stuff. But we worked together, and he knew I played the drums. And Tom actually lived out in New Jersey, and Doug lived in Minnesota. And so he would play local coffee shops, and he'd have me fill in on the drums, or he would call me up. And one time he called and said, "Matt, what are you doing this weekend? I got this idea for the song. I need a drum track." So he came to my house, and his idea was a jazz version of "We're Not Gonna Take It" by Twisted Sister, right?
Oh no.
It was just as cheesy and dumb as you would think. It was "We're not gonna take it."
Oh no.
This one, exactly. And so I recorded that for him, right? And this must have been 1999. Now here's the crazy part of this is I mentioned that Tom was on the East Coast, New Jersey, or Connecticut, somewhere out there, right?
Yeah.
And so he was driving on the highway on a turnpike, and he saw a billboard for the Dee Snider radio show. And Tom is not a metal guy at all, right?
Okay.
But he saw this, and he did know that Dee Snider sang "We're Not Going to Take It" with Twisted Sister. And so he sent a CD to the radio show. And this was like early in 1999.
So
right?
early Sirius XM radio.
Yeah. No,
Okay.
this was actually for his morning show. It's not House of Hair, like his syndicated show.
All right.
But he was in Hartford, Connecticut, doing a morning show.
Okay. All right.
Monday through Friday, right? Drive time.
Gotcha.
And so sent it, didn't hear anything. Tom calls me up like first week of December, or Doug does, and he says, Matt, what are you doing this weekend? I'm like, no plans. He's like, we're going to Connecticut. I'm like, why? And so what happened was the station manager called Tom up and said, hey, I got your CD, and Dee is going to have this on-air party, this big on-air bash, and wants to invite everybody who's made his first year on the drive time a big success. And since we've been playing your song as our bumper music for the past 6 months,
Oh my.
we'd like you to come out and play it live on the air. And it's like, what the heck? And this is like early days of being able to go to a website and stream something. And so I did. I streamed the program, and sure enough, they're playing our friggin' song. So we went out to Hartford, Connecticut, and met Dee in the morning. Guy is just amazing. He's one of the most amazing people I've ever met in person. Like charisma off the charts. And here's the funny thing. So I walked in at like 4:30 in the morning, right?
Yeah.
Dee meets me, and it's at a bar called the Brickyard Cafe. And so there's all sorts of people. There's actually a bunch of fans that are there just pounding beers, early in the morning. And he's got his whole production team. And like when it goes to commercial break, there's all these people running around. He's got all these guests and everything, right? But I had met him at 4:30 in the morning. And then Tom and Doug, they're these goofy guys wearing lederhosen. It's their thing, right? I'm just playing the drums.
Yeah.
But then at the very end, it must have been like 9:30. I'm walking out the other side and I hear Matt, and it's Dee Snider, and he's running up to me and he's got a shirt for me. And he said, Matt, I really want to thank you for coming all the way from St. Paul to be on the show. And he gave me the shirt, and the dude remembered my name after he had all this stuff going on. I mean, that guy was seriously impressive. So it's funny that it took me to leave a metal band, join a jazz band to meet Dee Snider. But then after that, I played in, I played in a rockabilly band.
Okay.
Lazy Ike and the Daredevils. We played at Lee's Liquor Lounge and the Uptown. And that was a guy named Greg Huff that fronted that band. And like, if you're really into fishing shows, I think he does a local fishing show in Minnesota. And I was playing at Lee's with them once, and this country band named the Naked Cowboys came up to me and said, hey, we do four sets a night at VFWs around Minnesota. You guys want to fill in, next month? And I'm like, sure, why not? I'm not coming to your house to practice. They were from Delano, right?
Oh, okay.
I lived in South Minneapolis at the time. I'm like, I'm not driving out there to practice. So give me the CDs, tell me the songs, and I'll learn them. And you just have to trust me. But they were really cool guys. And so at that point, I was really a jobber,
Yeah.
Yeah. And then when I started, moving around the country, we also had kids and stuff. And so I didn't really play from 2001 till 2019.
Really?
So it took like
18 years. So did you still practice during that time? Did you keep your kit? Was it in the garage rafters or?
I kept a kit for a while. And when I was in Cincinnati, I moved it to Chicago and then to Cincinnati. When I was in Cincinnati, I had a friend who needed a drum kit for a gig. And he asked if he could use it. And I said, sure. He was a good buddy of mine. I saw him regularly. And he didn't bring it back. And then he didn't bring it back. And then I found out he friggin' sold it when he ran low on cash. Man, the only time I've been screwed out of money has only been from drummers. Only drummers.
You see, that's really weird because you think it would be the singer, you think it would be the lead guitar player, not the bass player. Bass player might forget, but what I mean.
Maybe it's because I'm smart enough to never even lend money or equipment to a guitarist.
Yeah, we do need to talk about a small loan while we're on the. Wow. And so then 2019. So you don't even have drums at this point in time. You're living in Dallas at that point in time?
Living in Dallas, and so came back up to Minnesota for that reunion show. I played Mike Curran's really cool Mapex Saturn 3 Green Machine drum kit.
Nice.
And then my wife was actually going through some horrible cancer treatments at the time. She's fine now. So
that's good. That's good.
But, it's one of those things where you start thinking about, hey, start thinking about your own mortality and what do you want to do? What's important? And I'm like, hey, man, I got a spark playing drums again that I'm just not going to let go out. So I bought a kit, Dallas, hooked up with some dudes, and lo and behold, I'm gigging, 2-3 times a month again. So
that's awesome.
It's a blast. I love it.
That's
about it.
So 2019 rolls around and Matt Valle is back on the drum throne. So what'd you go get? What kind of drums did you go get?
You know what? I got a set of Mapex because I loved what I was playing from Mike so much. So I
Oh,
got
really? Okay.
a Mapex, and then I realized early on that I knew the market really well, and so actually I've been doing some moderate flipping here and there. It's very easy to spot something that's underpriced,
That's
and
what I do
so
all day.
yeah, so I figured I can just keep trading up to better kits, which is what I've done. So I actually have three kits right now. Um, my studio kit is Mapex. It's a Black Panther kit, which is top of the line. It's just awesome.
Gotcha.
I don't take that out of the studio, but I gig, so I got a total replica in sizes and everything, hardware symbols that I use for gigging, so that I don't have to pack everything up for every gig. It's already packed up. That's a Mapex Armory kit. And I have a third little kit that I've got. Actually, got a fill-in gig this Friday, tomorrow night, playing like a little rockabilly thing. I have this little Mapex Orion. So Mike Kern turned me on to the Mapex kits, and I can't go back
Yeah,
now.
yeah. What do you use for symbols?
I've always been a Zildjian guy,
Yeah.
but I use Zildjian, and I also use Wuhan's. Um,
Okay. All right.
Wuhan is known for the Chinas.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I'm telling you, all of their other symbols, except for the ride, I just can't get a good ride. But the crashes, the splashes, they're the same B20 alloy that Zildjian and other Sabian, other top symbol manufacturers use.
Hmm.
So they are professional symbols. They're just, a third of the price, if not, even less. So I have a full set of Wuhans too that I use for my rehearsal symbols.
And do you use that across? Okay. So, and you use the Zildjians for when you perform? Is that, or how do you mix it up?
Yeah, yeah, for live gigs and for recording, I use the Zildjians.
Okay.
But I've used the Wuhans out live. No one would ever know.
Yeah. Yeah.
They sound awesome, so totally fine with that.
And what size kits are you using when you're playing these? Like you said that you're using a small kit, and then you have your full size kit that you use. What do you have the
Yeah.
double bass thing? Do you use the double bass pedal?
No,
What do you got
God,
going on?
couldn't imagine, lugging two bass drums around anymore. God, we were so stupid back.
That was awesome. It
It
was
was awesome. It looked
awesome.
cool. It looked cool. No, for my typical kit, like playing with the punk band, playing with Pretty or whatever, is I use a 5-piece kit. So bass drum, one rack tom, snare drum, two floor toms. That's my favorite setup.
Oh, okay. Got a
Uh,
14 and 16 or
14 and 16. Yep. So
gotcha.
it's 12, 14, 16 on the toms.
Oh, that's cool.
But for this thing tomorrow night, it's just like bass drum, snare, and floor tom. That's it. It's just a little thing, like playing with what do you call it, like the hot sticks. Not quite the brushes or the sticks. They're kind of in the middle, like all the dowels that are all wrapped together.
Oh, okay. All right. Yeah.
Mark calls them hot sticks. So it's like
Like a kendo stick, only tiny.
yeah, it's a quiet gig, So it's just a little
Oh, I gotcha.
tapping thing. So yeah.
That's cool.
But usually it's that 5-piece kit, 12, 14, 16. And probably too many symbols, right? Because
Yeah.
I still have metal in my blood, man.
You like that ringing noise.
It's like
Do you
I'm
use a
not
double
playing.
kick pedal or no? Do you just do
Oh yeah, oh yeah. I use a double kick pedal. Absolutely.
What kind of sticks do you use?
I have been using Vic Firth. They've got this size. They're not 5Bs, but they're 5B extreme. So they're like half-inch longer than a typical 5B.
Okay.
I just really like the length.
Yeah.
Can get more of kind of that whip action with a longer stick. So that's what I've been using.
Do you use a vinyl tip or nylon tip or wood tip?
I use a nylon tip, man. Some people dump on it. I don't care. I like the brighter ping on the ride symbol.
Yeah. Have you always done that, or it's progressed
I've
over?
always done that. I've always done that because way back in the day, it was trying to duplicate the sound of Dave Lombardo's ride symbol, which was unbelievable.
Yeah.
and it's weird for me. So sometimes I would see him playing in Slayer with wood tips. I'm like, how do you get the sound that awesome pain with a wood tip? But I could get
It
close
gets
to it.
sampled.
Yeah, I could get closest to it with a vinyl with a nylon tip myself. So I've always used those.
Oh, that's cool. That's
It's just, hey, that's how it goes. Like I got a rehearsal space here in Dallas, right? And it's just overflowing with stuff.
yeah.
But it's so great because I actually just love being back in the culture of it, you know.
Yeah.
So my rehearsal space, we are in the same space as the Reverend Horton Heat. I don't know how you feel about the Reverend Horton Heat, but
I'm
they have
familiar with
long been a top 5 band for me.
Oh, okay.
So that was definitely like a meeting your heroes kind of thing.
Really?
And they're just the coolest dudes, right? And they're there all the time, and it's like, hey, Jimbo, what's up? You know, like,
Yeah.
and it's you just get back in the you get back in the vibes, talking about hey, other bands there, oh, dude, where are you playing this weekend? Da, 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 da. I dig it. It's
Yeah.
fun.
The camaraderie.
It's great. Yeah. It's just something about it. But I
Yeah.
have to ask you, isn't Brian Holtzcamp in Dominion?
Yes. From Gone Irate.
Yes, he went to Tartan. Good friend of mine. Matter of fact, let me get you a quick prop. If you give me a second.
Yeah.
Brian Holtzcamp was also very close with Josh. He's known Josh longer than I have.
Oh, really? I just had Ted Shevitz on here 3 months ago.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Brian, and they even started recording. They've got this. They have this song they wrote together way back in the day called "Sleeping Dogs." So next time you talk to Brian, ask him about it. It's great stuff. Okay, so we all have like battle vests. I still got my high school one, right? So it's my high school one. See, there's the replacements down there too. So that's like the dual.
Oh wow, Slayer and the
Yeah.
replacements on the same battle vest.
But this one, my second battle vest right here, this hand painted Motorhead one.
Nice.
That was Brian Holtzcamp.
Oh, he did that?
He painted this and he gave it to me. So thanks so much, Brian. Love you, brother. I still have it, man.
Tell me a little bit about your new band, about the band that you're playing in now. So, like, if I'm in the Dallas Fort Worth area on some random Saturday night, what name I should look for? The name Pretty? Is that correct?
It's called Pretty. I think the alias on social media and our website is I Am Pretty the Band.
Okay.
So if you go to IamPrettyTheBand.com, that's the easiest way to find like our Spotify or our Apple Music. Turns out there's about a billion.
You're in the cloud with that stuff. It's not just.
Oh yeah.
You can buy our 8-track at the local record store.
Man, I'm not kidding, man. This Justin, he writes really good, catchy songs. It's really high energy. It's 10 songs, so that's it. Self-titled, Pretty. But
Okay.
you can't go to Spotify and search for Pretty because like 1,000 things come up.
You don't want to just do it on the web.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. So I am pretty the band.com.
Oh, all right. We're here with Matt Valle, the thunder behind State of Mind, and currently Pretty.
Pretty.
You want to go to I Am Pretty.
I Am Pretty the Band.
I Am Pretty the Band.com. And so a lot of shows that we kind of didn't talk anything about would be like the Decker time. So, like I said, if you can roll back your maturity and for a little bit, and maybe you did put something up on Facebook about Decker the other day. What do you got for me? What do you got?
I know it's super funny because all my experience with Decker was pre-anal blast. So I didn't really know him that much after that. It was all pre So my interactions with him were as a promoter. Um, but pretty early on, right, when he was not so organized and
And he was Decker all the way through.
he was Decker all the way through. So yeah, I just remember, being like 16, 17 or whatever and going to his apartment, which I had to tell my mom and my parents, like, I am going to this guy's apartment in Minneapolis. And they're like, what's our kid, what are our kids getting into, right? But yeah, just helping him out with flyers and stuff. And his apartment was disgusting, man. It was really freaking foul and gross. But yeah, I remember putting the flyers together and running to Kinko's with him. And, he was surprisingly cool when it was like one-on-one,
Yeah.
He was sort of, he had an image to uphold if he was around a whole bunch of people, but he was really chill, when you're one-on-one with him. And
Yeah.
so I remember some people would be like, what the hell is this? Like, state of mind on all the flyers would say St. Paul's best state of mind, right? People are like, why do you put that on there? I'm like, because Decker did it, and we just got it's from his flyers, it's just like, whatever. Decker did it. Probably because, he's like, these idiots from St. Paul, nobody in Minneapolis probably knows these guys. So let's say that they're the best, and then people come to
They are the best.
So yeah. Here's something kind of interesting about AMLS. It just kind of blew me away because like I said, so we hung it up in '94, and then I was doing other things. And so I lost touch a little bit with the metal scene for a while, and especially after I started moving. And I was in Chicago, let's see, the second time. So this must have been like 2000, 2009, 2010, something like that. I was in Chicago, and I had a good buddy who was also kind of a metalhead. And so we scoped out this metal record shop in Chicago, right? And so we went there one day, and I walked in, and I couldn't believe it. I looked, and they've got all these shirts hanging up there. They had like 8 different Anal Blast shirts. And so, I mean, I knew of Anal Blast because I was from Minnesota, right? And I knew what Decker was doing and everything. But I really, truly didn't realize that they were this huge thing, And so I went up to the guy at the couch, just like total idiot. And I'm like, is this Anal Blast? The Anal Blast, like Sean Decker and the guys from Minneapolis? And he's like, duh. And so I was just really impressed with, the kind of impact that they had. It really was a lot bigger than I thought.
Oh yeah, because they played during the Void, is what I guess I would call it. The Void from like 93 to like 97 there.
Yeah.
Where there was like the dip in metal was pretty huge. And they played a lot in that time, and they went and did a lot of stuff. And Decker was an amazing front man. He did a lot of lewd, disgusting things that I have a hard time even talking about. But he as a singer, as a front man, as he was captivating even when he was just singing. You know what I mean? So he did a great job, and I didn't think that he needed to do all that extra stuff, but I bet you it helped. Yeah. And then did you start out by going on the Root of All Evil and getting your tape put on there for your demo and everything? And
oh, totally.
How'd that go?
That was one of the greatest experiences ever, being on Earl's show for the first time. It was just, guys got larger than life personality, and we were the star of the show because he was going to be featuring our record and interviewing us on air, and it was just such a kick and a thrill for young kids to do. I mean, it was such a cool time to just right time, right place. It's just very fortunate. So it's just awesome. And then just seeing his frenzied way of making transitions and trying to run out for a smoke and all this kind of, it's got everything going on. That guy's going a mile a minute, at 3 a.m.
Yeah,
This
yeah. And now Josh has taken a little bit of that on, hasn't he?
Yeah, it's amazing. I love the fact that they kept it going and it's going so well.
Mm-hmm.
Josh does a great job. Mara the Death did an awesome job. I just love her. She's amazing. Ungentle Ben and the whole cast of characters that are keeping it going. They do a great job. I still listen to it, after all these years. Um, if I'm up at that time, sure enough, I'll pop it
Well,
on
you can
and see.
stream it too. You can stream it. So like sometimes I'll put it on when I'm like I'll stream it when I'm like working on editing a video or when I'm working on something in the warehouse. And
Yeah,
it's
so
kind of
much, so
cool.
much better than like, St. Paul trying to tune it in. Even at that time, just getting your stuff. There were some nights it was just you had to throw in the towel. It's like this is not happening.
You never went out to the car. I remember having to go to the car and
Yes,
drive up to the
totally.
end of the block so I could get it. And I remember sitting in my
Yeah.
red station wagon with the wood side paneling, and I'm just listening to Earl's show, and he's got like Soylent Green or something like that on there, and it's just
Yeah,
because I couldn't tune it in at home, if it didn't work. Now you can get it wherever you want. So he started that in '87. Did you know that?
yeah, that sounds about right.
So
Yeah,
we were very early on with him doing it, and it sounds like you were too. That's pretty
yeah,
cool,
totally.
you know.
I'm sure I listened in '87.
Yeah.
Josh would spend the night and we'd stay up all night listening to Root of All Evil. So that was amazing. I just remember too, we opened up for them one weekend, and we were talking at the show, and I told them, at this time I was attending the University of Minnesota, and I would take, was it the 16 bus that went all the way down University from downtown St. Paul to down to the campus. So that's the 16 or the 20, I'm trying to remember. Anyway,
Yeah.
I would take that bus every day, take the bus to school. And I was telling Earl that because I'm like, hey, I passed down University, not far from your record shop or whatever. He's like, oh, dude. He's like, Monday. He's like, why don't you hop off at Urban Lights Records? I'll pick you up at noon. We'll grab some lunch. I'll take you to my record shop or whatever, and then I'll bring you back. And I'm like, sure. And sure enough, I went to Urban Lights, and then all of a sudden his Volkswagen Beetle pulls up, barely.
The Beetle.
Yeah, we spent, and we did that a few times. Grab some lunch, spend the afternoon, buy some records, and just so like it wasn't even just remembering. He would invest time in people. It's kind of funny because I think I mentioned before that we really started playing because we were such fans of the music. And we were such fans of the local metal scene. And that was always kind of how we were. And so it's kind of funny, like a band like Disturbed or even Soylent Green, who became label mates on Channel 83. We still idolized those guys, we never thought of ourselves as like top tier in the metal scene at all. We were fans and we're still, we're still intimidated by Disturbed, like fans going up to bands that they love. So it's just kind of a funny thing that way. Yeah, so Profane Existence is legendary political punk rock zine that originated in Minneapolis. That was started by Dan Siskind, who's now really noted for all of the Lego work that he does.
What?
Legos, yeah. I think he's got a company where he builds all these custom Lego.
Really?
Yeah,
That's crazy.
yeah. He's a really interesting guy. But he started Profane Existence. It must have been 1989, I think, when he founded it, and it really became a huge thing, an international thing. And like the distribution that he's just super ambitious guy, right? He's like a gutter punk, that did this thing, and just it was all, volunteer based. I mean, there's so much of that in Minneapolis. There was with extreme noise and all that stuff. It was kind of that sort of thing. Dan did it. I don't know the whole story, but um, he contacted us and said he wanted to interview State of Mind for Profane Existence, and would we be interested? Sure, come out and to my apartment in Minneapolis, and we'll tell you all about it. So we drove out to Minneapolis, probably again down Marshall Avenue all the way. And so we walked into his apartment, into his living room. It was a door straight into the living room, and it was a little bit shocking because on the wall, top to bottom, all four walls, all gay porn photos. Like
Okay.
porn magazines, the whole thing, right?
Yeah.
So not what you would usually see.
Not your standard artwork.
Yeah, so it's like kind of like designed to shock.
Okay, I gotcha.
And I mean, it seems like it was more shocking then than it would be nowadays. But he was just a super cool guy. And so it was Dan, and it was the singer for Crib Death, who was also involved in it.
Okay.
And so I remember, we were just talking about some things, and Dan introduced me to the idea of like punk points. And, he was talking about the battle in the mind of the punk rocker who's a vegetarian, who has to have the leather jacket, that's so anyways, kind of regaling us with these stories. It's just a great personality, funny guy and that sort of thing. And he explained that hey, they're not a metal magazine, but they really liked our lyrics, which were, socio-political at the time and sort of aligned with their vibe. And so he wanted to do it, and he thought it would be this really, that there'd be a lot of backlash for them to have a thrash metal band, featured in existence. And, were we concerned about that? Like, no problem. And so cool. And so we booked it, and he came out to my parents' house. He and the guy from Crib Death, and
okay.
The guy from Crib Death was like impossibly old to us at the time. It was like maybe 28 or 29. Right? It's like, oh my God, it's a really old guy. So, but anyway, we did this interview in our basement, and it was really funny because we had a cement floor and we had a pogo stick. But we never pogoed in the basement because we had worn the rubber off of the bottom, right? So it's like metal against cement, and it's like an accident waiting to happen, but we still had it. It was just leaning up against the wall, right? So this old guy, the dude from Crib Death, he grabs the pogo stick. Man, I haven't been on one of these in years. And he starts jumping, and the thing just hits the ground and just out from under him, and he goes flying on his back, and his glasses fly off his face, and he had kind of like these round glasses, and they ended up in a corner, and so the frames were like this with the arms up, and the two lenses had popped out and were just neatly stacked on the frames of the glass. It was the oddest thing, and he was just there sitting there stunned with his wind knocked out of him. Anyway, we did the interview, and we thought it was kind of cool, and it led to being booked on a couple of shows with Profane Existence, which we didn't end up playing. There was this big show in the entry that we were going to play with Misery and Crib Death, that vibe.
The hardcore scene.
Yeah, Sloan got really drunk the night before and punched a windshield and busted the hell out of his hand. Wasn't able to play, so we had to drop off the gig.
Oh no!
But anyway, it turns out it was issue number 2 of Profane Existence, which is quite a coup, just thinking back on it. And it was the centerfold spread. Some of those are collectibles.
Oh yeah, that's pretty crazy. That's so you were in the second episode of that, or the second, not episode, edition, or
Yeah.
issue.
Yeah. They were
That's
super
pretty
cool guys,
amazing.
though. They were really, really cool guys.
That's crazy. So do you have a copy of it?
I do.
All right. Well, Matt Valle, thank you so much for being on Backstage Community Forum. Really appreciate you having you on here. It's been nice to catch up with you. It's been more than a couple of years. So I really appreciate you taking the time and talking to me about, all the stuff that you have going on and that you've done. I really appreciate it.
Dude, it's a total honor. So fun to chat with you, and I love sharing these old stories. I mean, like I said, it was a great time and place to be doing music in Minneapolis back then. It was great people, great music, and a lot of the people are still there. So here we are. It's great to share the stories. Right on.
Backstage Community Forum. Make sure that you like and subscribe and share out this video if you find it fun. And thanks for tuning in.